Okay, live stream and hey guys, welcome to the As the Leader Grows podcast. I am your host, Ken Joslin, where we are passionate about helping business leaders build confidence, gain clarity, and create community. And I have got my good friend, Greg Persley, aka Dr. G Money Big Dog, in the house. Greg is the owner. I threw that in. You like that, didn't you?
I like
Greg's the owner of PC Medical Centers, Dr. G's private coaching, two-time author. He's been featured on Fox News. And he probably has the coolest website ever, fixyourbs.com. Greg, what's up, dude?
Not much, man. Not too much. I've been looking forward to this for a long time, Ken. Looking forward to it.
We've been trying to get connected and together. It just so happens that today I had 4 podcasts scheduled, recordings, and I had one cancel. And I'm like, let me go find my guy, Greg. Let me see.
I think this is the 4th time we've rescheduled too. So it worked out.
It's been crazy. Hey, take a minute, Greg. Tell our audience a little bit more about you, where you're at, what you've got going on, and just where you're at right now in life.
All right, man. Well, I mean, first, Fix Your BS. You mentioned that. Fix Your BS stands for belief systems. A lot of people think it stands for something else, obviously.
Oh, I did. I thought it was bullshit. Yeah. I didn't know that. There you go.
Yeah. It makes for a great cover of a book, I'll tell you, which is being released in January. But Fix Your BS is all about belief systems, man. It's pretty simple. If you don't like where you're at right now, it's because you have the wrong information and the wrong habits. So I teach you how to develop different belief systems so you can have the future that you want to have. Most people end up in a place where they don't want to be. So I teach you how to end up in a place you want to be. And it's been fun. But PC Medical Centers is an integrated medical clinic. I'm actually a chiropractic physician. And so that's my other business. So I'm all about helping people. I'm all about helping people physically as well as mentally and emotionally also. So that's what I'm all about. I'm 40 years old. I turned 40 this year, dude. I had to get a haircut just like you.
Well, your hair listen, your hair don't look near as good as mine does, homie.
But turned 40 this year, and I just wanted to give back because I went through a lot. My wife and I have 2 kids. My daughter's 17 now, but my son is 14. When he was born with dwarfism, had a lot of medical complications. And so for 8 years, he had a trach event, and it was all about keeping him alive. It was about my family, keeping him and keeping my family together. And after that, at the end of it, I was in a place I didn't want to be. I didn't like my finances. I didn't like my relationships. I didn't like my health. I didn't like my career where it was at. I didn't like my money. I didn't like any, just my life was not where I wanted it to be. And so I was like, man, how can I build back out of this? How do I get back and to where I wanted to be? And that's where Fix Your BS came from. And I was like, man, I can't just hold this to myself. I've got to be able to share it with other people. And so, through people like you, I appreciate the opportunity to be able to share what I do with other people.
Yeah. Well, when you talk to me you talk about belief system and you said it started with you. Talk to me about that. What was the catalyst in you that said, no, it's me. I have to change my personal belief system. Talk to me about that and how you got to that spot.
Well, I mean, you can't control everything around you. You can't control really anything around you. The only thing you can control is you. And so, it just started with some questions. It was the end of 2018. And the question I kept asking myself was, can I keep doing what I'm doing the rest of my life? Am I fulfilled? Am I happy? And the answer to that was no. And there was a lot of deep, dark moments of just trying to figure out inside here what was going on and where I was and what I liked and what I didn't like. And what I realized was through listening to other people and podcasts and books and all this information of searching, what I realized was there was a lot of commonality between all these gurus that talk about how to build the life you want to build. So I took all that information and I just turned it into a very simple process that people can follow. And that's what I used to build back into a life that I enjoyed. So now my relationships are better. I've learned about those type of things. My finances are better. I've got 2 businesses now that are doing very well. My career is where I want it to be. I'm happy. I'm excited about it. My health is a lot better. I do the things I want to do, but I'm also, working out more and I enjoy doing that instead of having to do it, and then my faith, man, my faith is better than it's ever been. And I don't mean faith in God necessarily, but you have to have faith in something. And so those are the 5 pillars that I talk about in belief systems. You got to have those 5 pillars working for you. And if you only have one of them, your life isn't very sound if the structure isn't very sound.
Yeah. So talk to me about that process, Greg. You took a step back. You didn't really like any of the areas in your life. You spent a long time, and I'm sure it's a lot of work, and it can be very, very tiresome to be able to do what you did, to be able to help your son. Obviously now I see you guys, y'all do the week-long camp, which you and I have talked about several times, which I love. But you're looking at you in the mirror, and you're talking to yourself about your belief systems. Where did you start? Tell me where you started that journey.
Well, the journey started with discontent. I mean, that's where it started. It started with going, I don't like who I am. I don't like where I'm at. And so I was just not content with life in general. I was unhappy. And so waking up was a struggle, and doing the day-to-day thing was a struggle. And, everything was a struggle. And you get to a point where you just go, I'm tired of struggling all the time. There has to be a better way. There are people living in life right now that are just happy all the time. Like what's their secret? There's got to be something. And so, all these, for years, I listened to Jim Rohn and Tony Robbins, and just the whole list, all the guys, John Maxwell, who Grant Cardone, Brandon Dawson, just list after list. I got a whole bookshelf of people that I just was searching. And so it just started with that moment of, I don't like where I'm headed. There's gotta be something better. And so that's where that search began. And then I realized during that search that it all started right here. It all started with the beliefs that you have in your life drive your thought process, which then drives your habits, which then gives you a result. I mean, it's not rocket science, if you will, once you realize that. But the hard part is for most people, if they're so ingrained in their patterns that they never take a moment to look at it, to take a step back and go and ask the question, why do I believe that? Why am I doing this habit? Why do I have this emotion, and start to analyze that and look at it. And, and people stay where they're at, even if they don't like it, just because of fear. And they're just afraid. What if something doesn't go right? What if I don't like it? What if it's worse than it is now? And I'm like, yeah, but what if it's better than it is now? So
what would you say, Greg, to people that are listening to the podcast today? And I know we have hundreds and hundreds of listeners every week, almost 1,000 listeners a week.
Congrats, by the way. That's awesome.
Oh, dude, it's crazy.
Changing lives, man. Changing lives.
It's insane what God's doing right now. But somebody's listening to this podcast and they're like, I want to try, but I am afraid. I'm afraid of failing. What do you say to those guys?
You got to make a decision. So if you're afraid of failing, then you've already failed. I mean, if you're not going to take action, if there's something in your life you don't like, and you say, well, I'm afraid of the potential different outcome, well, then you're going to end up where you are right now, and you're not going to like it into the future either. And then you're going to be pissed off that you wasted all this time. That's what's going to happen. Yeah. And so, fear is a choice. People don't realize that. They think fear is affecting them externally, but it's not. It's internal. And it's generally made up, as Ken. It's made up, meaning people are just afraid of the potential outcome, and they're not thinking of in terms of there's only going to be one outcome. There's only going to be one. And all the potentials that could happen are under your control moment to moment moving forward. And who controls you? And so, I tell people all the time, when I work with them one-on-one, I have coaching, I'm like, look, I start asking why. You say you ask why 7 times to get to the root of the cause. I'm sure you've heard that, but
I have.
Ask why 7 times. So oh well, what's your goal? What's the end goal you want? Oh man, I want to make $1 million a year. Okay.
Why
do you want to make $1 million a year? Oh, because then I'll be financially, sound. I'm like, well, why does that matter? Why is being financially sound matter? And why do you believe that $1 million a year is financial soundness? And so once we start diving in and asking questions, then we get to the root, and all of a sudden the fear of, oh, well, I didn't take that step because it really wasn't what they thought it was most of the time.
That's good.
Yeah.
What would you say out of those pillars that you talked about? What would you think is the hardest for people to get?
Faith.
And why?
Because they have a preconceived notion about faith and what it is. And they don't understand that faith has a lot more to do with you than it does with religion. They've attached it to religion. And I can start talking about faith and people will have this like, oh, they start to tune out.
Right.
And I'm like, you don't understand. Faith is the potential of betterment into the future. That's what faith is. I have faith that I am here for a reason and that I'm going to fulfill a purpose. And that if you are fulfilling your purpose, you are more fulfilled and happy as a person than if you're doing something you just absolutely that doesn't align with you as a person. And so people have this, when we talk about them, most time people want to talk about two things. They want to talk about money and they want to talk about health. And when they say health, they mean weight loss. Those are the two they want to hone in on. And I'm like, I mean, that's great, but how are your relationships? Because that's going to affect whether you're working out or not. That's going to affect your money. Career. Are you aligned? Or is it something you're excited about? Because the amount of excitement and effort you put into your career is going to affect your money. And so, and your faith, the faith or the alignment of the outcome of what you're trying to do, meaning like, I have faith that if I take the right actions, that the universe or God or the source energy or whatever you want to call it, it's the same thing, is going to start meeting me halfway. And if you don't have faith, then you're going to take half-ass actions. And if you take half-ass actions, what kind of results are you going to get?
You're going to get half-ass results if you get any results at all.
Right. If you get any. And you're only going to pick out the things that if you don't believe that it's going to work, you're only going to pick out the reasons why it didn't work. And then you're going to probably blame other people, the government, the economy, the weather, the place you live, blah, blah, blah. I've heard them all. And you're like, man, I learned this from Jim Rohn. He goes, hey, there's one problem with your list. You ain't on the list. You ain't on the list. You're on the list. You got to be on the list because that's the only control you have. So yeah, man, it's a passion. I love it. I love watching people because I went through this process and it is it's like a butterfly coming from a caterpillar. It's just this process of extracting who you were and turning it into who you are. One of the things I really like to talk on, which I'm going to talk on in January when I'm down in Atlanta with you. But I call it RIP. RIP. So RIP is if you want to become someone new, you have to kill your old person. The old person has to die. The old habits, the old ways, the old person has to die. And so there's 3 steps to RIP. There's retrospection, there's introspection, and there's projection. Retrospection is looking at your past. Introspection is looking at you, who you are right now, which goes back into belief system. And then projection is projecting what you want into your future. And so what I found is that most people live in the past and in the future. They don't live in the present. They hope for a future, but they live in the past. And so what does their future look like? The exact same as their past.
Wow. That's pretty amazing. Talk to me, Greg, about, you work with a lot of entrepreneurs. You're a pretty successful doctor in your medical practice. What would you say is the number one thing when you're talking to entrepreneurs that you share with them that helps them literally level up?
Ask questions. Ask questions about everything. See, people, a belief system is really something they've concluded out of an experience that they've had in their past. And so they conclude this equals that. That experience equals good or bad or whatever outcome. And when they come to that conclusion, they never revisit it. And so if you come to a conclusion when you're 20 about a particular thing and you never revisit it, and then you're 30 and then you're 40 and you don't ever change that conclusion, which may or may not need to be changed, but you won't know unless you ask questions about it. You should constantly ask questions. Ask questions about yourself. Ask questions about why you believe stuff. Ask questions about the information that you're getting. Because most people, they get to a point where they just have made a decision about everything, and that's just the way it is.
I'm telling you, I'm 54 years old. I think I've learned more in the last 6 months. My birthday was in August. I probably learned more in the last 6 months than I have maybe even like the entirety of my adulthood before that, because I'm in constant learning mode, man. And one of my core values is teachability. I'm not only open to feedback, but I actively pursue feedback. It's like, how can I grow? How can I get better? How can I learn today? Okay. I want to switch gears just a little bit. Talking about entrepreneur, talking about your practice. Talk to me about your love of music.
Oh yeah.
We're talking about your Taylors and your Martins behind you. Where did that come from? What age? Like, when did you say, I want to be able to play?
So when I was growing up, I used to race motocross until I was about 14. And I have this vivid memory. I was 4 years old riding a little 50 out in the middle, this little motorcycle. And I'm out there and I'm just singing my head off, just singing, having a great time. And I remember coming back to my dad. My dad was like, "Were you out there singing?" And I was just like, "No, 4-year-old. No, please don't make, don't yell at me." He's like, "Yeah, you were. I could hear that." So that was my first memory of like just being in love with music, just singing. So when I was in high school, I sang and did choir and stuff. I also played baseball, which is kind of an interesting, combination. But then I never played an instrument until I went to college. And this is kind of a funny story. I had 3 roommates in college, and they all played guitar, and they all had smoking hot girlfriends. And I connected that. I went, I got to learn to play guitar, which is funny because that's one of the reasons why I got my wife. So,
Come on, man. You can't just say that and not drop a little bit of the story.
Drop a little bit of this.
Yeah. You're playing guitar. Where did you meet her at? While you were playing guitar?
Gotcha. Well, I met her. So I was in grad school and we had a mutual friend, and we were at the beginning of the trimester party, which is, there's trimesters in grad school. So you go 3, 15-week periods. Anyway, there's a beginning and end of the trimester party. Well, I was at the beginning of the trimester party. My mutual friend is with her. And I said, "Oh, who's your friend? She's beautiful. What the heck?" So anyway, started talking. And then later on, I used to live with my grandma at the time, but later on, when we got back to my grandma's house, I had a guitar sitting there. She's like, "Oh, can you play any Dave Matthews Band?" I'm like, "Heck yeah, I can play Dave Matthews Band." Come
on, baby.
Yeah. So I played Crash. I don't know if you know that song, "Crash Into Me" by Dave Matthews. Yeah. And what an excellent first date song, right?
Ooh,
that's perfect. Baby. Yeah.
Did you get some sugar at the end of the night?
Well, not all the sugar, but I got a little taste.
Come on, man. I love it. Dude, listen, we've got entrepreneurs out there. We talk a lot about building confidence, gaining clarity, and creating community. Out of those things, the confidence, clarity, or community, what would you say is the most important for entrepreneurs to nail down?
Clarity. Number one, you have to have clarity, because it doesn't matter what community. If you're building the wrong community, if you're not clear on what you want, you're going to build the wrong community. And then if you're not clear on what you want, how could you have confidence? You got to be clear. You got to be clear on the outcome that you're looking for. And the more clarity you have, the better. And I have a whole Fix Your BS process, a system. And one of the things we talk about is having a vision for the future. And it has to be a compelling and clear vision for the future. Compelling means exciting. You're excited about it. It's compelling you. It's drawing you in. But clear is, to the absolute nitty-gritty detail of exactly what you want. Because the second step is going to be visualization and emotionalization. So you visualize that clarity, what it is, you feel it, and then you see it. And then the second part is you feel what it would be like. And I always give people, and this is a quick win for your audience. I hope they listen to this part. Like, if you could listen to one part, it'd be this little snippet. People don't realize how simple it actually is. But if you can have a clear vision of what you want, into the future, you're going to have to be a different person in that future than you are now. Would you agree with that?
Yes, 1,000%.
All right. So it becomes very simple. Become very clear about what that vision is that you want for yourself in the future. And then you're going to write down the attributes of the person that you have to become. So how do you do that? What you do is you visualize that person who already has all the things that you're talking about that you want. and you ask yourself, how does that person carry themselves? What questions do they ask? What community do they have? How are they dressed? What car do they drive? What's their daily activities like? And once you figure that out right there, all you have to do is start acting like that person.
Isn't that crazy? I tell people all the time, you want to be a business of 5 million? Just go do the things that businesses that do $5 million a year do.
That's it.
You want to learn to, you just have to take the steps. You have to take action.
You're exactly right. But here's the problem. A lot of people see the positive side of, I want $1 billion or a business doing 5 million a year, but they have never experienced it. So they want the end result of having that, but they don't know that they actually want the business doing 5 million a year. And what I tell them is, like you just said, I want a business doing 5 million. Great. Who do you know that's doing a business in your niche that's doing 5 million a year? Great. Go study them, everything about them. Go to their place, go experience that person in their natural, day to day. And what almost inevitably what happens is the person has a false understanding of what they think they want. Go ahead.
I had my buddy Casey Graham, who's a CEO of their goal in the next 12, 24 months is to have $1 billion exit. And he's been CEO. We've been friends for a long time. And he did a thing called owner's intent, which was basically, had everybody in our mastermind do it back in May when we were in Atlanta, which is basically like, what is your intent? Like your company employees, like his owner's intent is when he's already sold one business for a few tens of millions of dollars. He goes, this one, my owner's intent is to walk with $150 million cash after I pay my taxes, after I do everything, $150 million. And he goes, when I got clear on that and my team knew this is my owner's intent, dude, it was like everything just started organically happening.
Yeah, because you have a clear vision. I mean, otherwise the people will come into work and they're basically working on the business and trying to create a vision of what they think the vision is. And so if you have 100 employees and they're all creating different visions for the company, it's going to be just this mess. If you can create a clear vision for what that company is, and I say that with my company all the time. I say my PC Medical Centers company, it's an integrated medical company, and I go in and if you ask any person in there, you say, "What's the vision of the company?" Oh, the vision of the company is to create 9 clinics in this area doing between $3 to $5 million per year with 12 employees per clinic. They know, okay, and then we're going to exit out of that business within 10 years, and that business should exit out at $110 million. The people that help the business grow and are there over a period of time will get a certain percentage of that. So they already know, like they're like, oh, I'm vested in this business because number one, there's an outcome, but number two, I get a part of helping this business grow. And so it happens. You've given them
clarity. You've given them clarity and a roadmap of here's how you do it.
Right.
And here's what it looks like. Greg, what's the best way for people to find you?
Well, I mean, what I'd like them to do is go to fixyourbs.com.
It's not bullshit. That's fix your belief system. I love that, dude. That's so good. Fixyourbs.com. Tell them what they're going to find there, Greg.
Well, what we have is we have groups. So we have a group coaching every week, and then there's a free coaching. We just go over information about the book that's coming out in January, but it's Fix Your BS is the book. And we just have information about each chapter each week, and it's more, generalized. But the actual group coaching, we give away the first 2 weeks for free. And what it is we dive deep into each pillar and dive deep into each individual people that are actually coming into that group. We dive deep into their questions. And what's funny is people start to realize, oh, I'm not the only one that has this issue. I'm not the only one that has this question. Right. There's other people just like me. And the reason why I want the group is because it helps you get mentorship, not just from me, but from other people. And we've had people in this ecosystem start to connect and go, oh man, I'm in the same genre and niche as you are. I have this, question or whatever, and they've started to do business and stuff. So it's really cool. And not only that, you hold yourself accountable with other people. You're more likely to hold yourself accountable when other people.
It always comes back to those relationships. Now you've got relationships with the people that are, kind of in the foxhole together, if you will. They're battling the same things. And when one person wins in that community circle corner, it floats to everybody. The information does. And we talked about information at the beginning of the podcast. The information gets to them and they experience change when they take and embrace that information and take action on it.
Yeah. The only reason you're not getting what you want is you have the wrong information and the wrong habits. Boom. That is it. That is it. How do you develop a new habit? You get different information. How do you get different information? You develop, you look into your own belief systems, and that's it, man. That's the process. You change your belief systems with information, which then impacts your habits, and your habits change, you get a different outcome. And so many people are trying to get a different outcome with the same information every day. And they just ask themselves terrible questions. How come I'm always, how come I never, how come, blah, blah, blah. And they don't understand that if you rephrase that question with gratitude, you will get a different response, not only from the universe around you, but internally inside yourself. If you say something along the lines of, instead of how come I'm always broke, you can say, what lessons can I learn from the history that I have and the decisions that I've made to make a different outcome? And the outcome that I'm looking for is blah, 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 blah. That is a much better way of phrasing that. And it gives you a new perspective on what you're trying to do and what information you need in order to get there.
That's so good. That's so good.
That's how you came into my life. That's how we hooked up.
Yeah, most definitely. It's, the relationship components, I talk about it all the time. The relationship components is the number one thing. It's the number one thing is proximity, relationships, being around and getting in the rooms with the people. So best place to get you, obviously, fixyourbs.com. We just talked about that. Also, guys, if you want to check your stuff out on Instagram, Dr. Greg Persley, P-U-R-S-L-E-Y. Check my guy out. Go to fixyourbs.com and connect with my guy right here. I promise you, he can help you in your business or in your personal life 1,000%. Greg, thanks for joining us today, my friend.
Hey, Ken, thanks for having me. I look forward to help impact, as many lives as I can through your podcast. Look forward to working with you in the future. And
we're going to have a blast.
Appreciate you.
We're going to have fun, man. Hey, guys, thanks for joining us on the As the Leader Grows podcast. I am your host, Ken Joslin. Man, where we love helping business leaders build confidence, gain clarity, and create community. If this show has added value to you, I'm going to ask you to do a couple things. Number one, hit that subscribe button, subscribe to our podcast. While you're listening today, snap a screenshot on your phone, share that on social media, tag myself, tag this one, tag Dr. Greg Percy on it as well. We'll both share. We've got a few thousand followers between us, and hopefully we'll be able to send you a little love and some followership. But again, we thank you for joining us, guys. You are those of you guys that are subscribers, listeners, again, hundreds and hundreds a week. We want to say thank you for making making our podcast top 100 podcasts in the country, literally within the first month. Absolutely amazing. Thanks for joining us. See you next time.